Well, hey there. You clicked this video because you're thirsty for knowledge. Very admirable. But more specifically, you want to know about Dead by Daylight's latest licensed killer, Pinhead. I've researched and compiled a fair bit of data on the subject, and I've come to the conclusion that yes, Pinhead is good and fun. That's true and real. This video aims to cover as much on Pinhead as I can. I've organized it into several segments, and I've included timestamps for each, in case there are any bits of the video you'd like to skip over. Please remember to like and subscribe, as it costs you nothing and helps bring me all the closer to my goals.
Now let's begin. Lore.
Pinhead the Hell Priest is a strange, not demon, also known as a Cenobite, from the bowels of hell that has spent years learning what it means to love, about pain. He and other Cenobites are sadistic masochists that see themselves as explorers in the further regions of experience, demons to some and angels to others. Let's start at the beginning. Pinhead wasn't always a demon. In fact, once upon a time he was a human, a British soldier named Elliot Spencer, who fought in World War I. His humanity was shattered during the Battle of Flanders, when he was one of the last surviving soldiers. The battle numbed Elliot Spencer, and he was only capable of feeling anything through experiencing pain. This drove Elliot to a very dark place where he became something of a thrill seeker for pain. In the attempt to test his limits of experiencing pain, he came across the Lament Configuration, a cursed puzzle box made by a sadistic, murderous pervert named Philip Lamachien. When solved, this box opens a portal to the demon dimension where the Cenobites reside. In fact, nearly all the Cenobites were once human that opened the portal to this realm. So over the course of many years, experiencing pain in any and all ways imaginable, Spencer became the Cenobite known as Pinhead. His mission is to show others the same pain he knows. He is the Hell Priest, and pain is his teachings. This certainly goes much deeper, as there is a comic series and actually 10 Hellraiser movies, though most of them were not received well, which is probably why I had no idea so many were made. For this video, I don't really want to deep dive the lore, just explain a bit of his backstory, as personally I had no idea what Hellraiser was all about. In the golden years of the franchise, he is portrayed more as a complex and cunning character with considerable thought and design behind him, and not just a mindless slasher hellbent on murder, as portrayed in his later movies. But anyways, let's move on.
Abilities.
We got our basic attack, our special power, and our Lament Configuration, which acts something similar to a passive. First, overview of the basic attack. Pinhead is a standard M1 killer, 115% movement, with a 32-meter terror radius, his weapon of choice being hook and chain. Aside from flavor, nothing really out of the norm here. Next, let's talk about the Lament Configuration. There's actually a lot to unpack here. Throughout the match, a puzzle box that only the survivors can see will appear somewhere on the map. So by design, you don't want to be actively looking for this. If left unchecked for 90 seconds, this box will activate and become yellow to the survivors, during which Chain Hunt begins. Chain Hunt will cause chains to randomly appear and target survivors anywhere on the map, causing incapacitated and slowing them down. A survivor can have multiple chains attached to them at once, and each chain has a stacking slow effect. This effect, if left unchecked, is very powerful, and it denies survivor progress and can help you end chases very fast. So it's in the survivor's best interest to seek out the Lament Configuration and solve it. As soon as a survivor picks it up, and that's pick it up, not solve it, Chain Hunt will end. The only way to remove holding the Lament Configuration is to solve it, which takes a 6-second channel, and it includes a guarantee skill check. While in the survivor's possession, the border around their icon changes to this golden color, and it also fills up like a bar if Chain Hunt is not already active. The survivor that's holding the box is hit with the Oblivious status effect, and once it is filled, they personally will be attacked by Chain Hunt. If Pinhead manages to down the survivor holding the box or picks it up himself, it activates Chain Hunt, and all survivors become bound by chains and scream, revealing their position. Once the survivor attempts to solve the box, you are made aware of this by Killer Instinct, during which you gain access to a teleport that puts you within 10 meters of the survivor. But using the teleport will consume the box in the process, so if there's no way that you can reach the survivor to stop them, teleporting just to put yourself in a chase is a good way to keep your momentum. So with all of this in mind, let's talk about his special power and how it complements the effects of the Lament configuration. His special power is called Summons of Pain, and this is where the difficulty of playing Pinhead comes in. So the ability is essentially a combination of Huntress, Nurse, and Twins. You wind up an indicator like a Huntress hatchet. Let go, and your camera will shift to the location like swapping to Vector, but it's designed fairly similar to a Nurse's teleport, being capable of going through walls and floors. Once you've chosen your point, you want to line up your target in the center of your screen and fire. From there, a hook and chain are summoned, a constant forward-moving projectile which you have XY axes control over. Collide this with a survivor and they are instantly bound by 3 chains, which they must move away from in order to break free. Now, pair this with the survivor that's holding the Lament configuration or during chain hunt, and they are having a very hard time getting away from you, as you can keep hitting them with multiple chains more easily. Just be aware if the chain is pulled around objects or other survivors or yourself collides with the chains, they instantly break. Let's talk about playing through a match. Pinhead doesn't have any need to spend time setting up like Hag or Demogorgon. So just look for the furthest away gen and make your way there. Always be on the lookout for the Lament configuration as you move through the map. Prioritize hunting survivors, but if you see it, pick it up, as forcing a chain hunt will almost always be a good play. Keeping track of the Lament configuration is very important. The UI elements that accompany the survivor portraits help keep track of chain hunt, but does not help you with knowing when the Lament configuration will respawn again, only when it has respawned. So try to remember these timings. After Pinhead uses the Lament configuration, it will respawn again after 5 seconds. This means when you find it and pick it up, or down the survivor holding it. After a survivor solves it, you teleport to the survivor, or they leave the match with it, it will respawn after 45 seconds. When the Lament configuration does respawn, it will play a unique sound. The respawn location acts something similar to Pyramid Head's Cage of Torment, where it'll generally spawn at a random point on the other side of the map, away from you. For the most part, he plays like a standard M1 killer, with a fairly decent anti-looping as long as you land your Summons of Pain. Chase the survivors, down them with your basic attack. On occasion, survivors will pick up the Lament configuration. Every time this happens, you have a choice. Your best case scenario is you're already on a chase and the person who picks it up is close to you. If they are nearby, it is crucial you drop target and focus the survivor holding it. As stated before, while they're holding the box, they have a personal chain hunt slowing them, plus Oblivious. So technically, they should be an easier target than the others. Downing the survivor will reward you with a chain hunt, and the box gets moved to another part of the map. Pairing this with barbecue and chili is insane. Once the box respawns, hook the survivor you just downed and watch for the survivor that's running in a random direction. Chances are they're going for the box to stop the chain hunt. Played well, and with good luck, you can constantly harass survivors by just cycling the survivors that are trying to stop the chain hunt. Not every match will go like this, as RNG is a considerable factor when dealing with the Lament configuration. I put together a terrible chart illustrating the basics of how to approach playing Pinhead. On the right is the general mindset of each killer broken down to its basics. Look for survivors, chase survivors, and hook survivors, then repeat. On the left is the basics of what specifically Pinhead is trying to achieve. Do any survivors have the box? If no, then look, chase, hook. If yes, are they close to you? If yes again, drop what you're doing, go for the box, then chase them and hook them. If they're not close to you, are you currently chasing a survivor? If yes, continue your chase and get the hook. Now, take this part as a form of general play, because it's possible the survivor that you're currently chasing is outplaying you. Teleporting away can put you into a different chase very fast, but it's a bit of a risk. It's possible you get nothing for it. The map you're on and the skill of the survivor play a big part here. But generally, in my experience, it's not worth to drop chase to teleport to a new chase. But if you're not in a chase at all, teleport, because you want to minimize your downtime as much as possible.
Weakness.
Counterplay to Pinhead. I think Pinhead will fall somewhere in the middle of the pack in terms of effectiveness, like a high B tier killer. Survivor teams that shut down Chain Hunt and keep the Lament configuration despawned will be your hardest matchups. Truthfully, I don't think Summons of Pain is a strong enough power alone to carry you to a win. There is a lot of room for error when using the ability. Whiffing the shot or using it at the wrong time or place can actually waste more time in chases.
perks.
So on the surface, Pinhead doesn't really stray too far from the generally good perks that make up the meta. I've gone over every one that's in the game, and I've handpicked some notable ones that I think will be effective when played with him. Generally, when building a loadout, I want to fulfill certain criteria. I want perks that help me find survivors, slow down the match, and end chases fast. So when choosing your perks, it's good to cover each of these bases. I'm going to organize the perks that I've chosen into each of these criteria. So let's start off with perks that help me find survivors. These are generally aura perks, but overall perks that give information. Barbecue and Chili, Lethal Pursuer, Surveillance, Discordance, Hoarder, Infectious Fright, Tinkerer, Nurse's Calling, plus Monitor and Abuse. So let's talk about them really quick. Barbecue and Chili, this is a no-brainer. The most popular killer perk in DBD, and Pinhead is no exception. After hooking survivors, see auras of those that are 40 meters out. Pay attention to what the survivors are doing. If you see someone hitting in a random direction, they very well may be hitting to the Lament configuration. Read survivors' movements, as getting a lot of chain hunt procs throughout the match will be devastating. Lethal Pursuer, generally an off pick for a lot of killers, but I think it may be good on Pinhead for the same reason as Barbecue. Start the match seeing the auras of all survivors for 9 seconds. Very possible one of them could tip you off as to where the Lament configuration is. Surveillance. I don't usually run this on killers, but as a spoiler alert for other perks I'm going to mention, pair this with Ruin. When Chain Hunt goes off, it forces survivors off the gen, and then Ruin causes regression, which causes Surveillance to activate. It's like a chain reaction that could be pretty cool on him. Discordance. Solid perk on a lot of killers. If more than one survivor is working on a gen, it glows yellow. Pinhead's strength is his ability to harass multiple survivors. This could lead into that. Not to mention counterplay for his own perk, Deadlock, which requires survivors to complete gens as a group. Hoarder. Usually an off-pick perk, but Pinhead has given it some value as the Lament configuration is an item that the survivor must pick up, so it's worth mentioning. Downside is there's some redundancy, as you can already see when someone picked up the Lament, and if they're solving it, Killer Instinct shows you exactly where they are. But this can tip you off a little sooner to help you get a jump on them. Infectious Fright. Down a survivor and nearby survivors will scream, revealing their location. Great slugging perk. Again, helps lean into his strengths. Tinkerer. Solid information perk, letting you know survivors are close to finishing a gen and provides a moment of undetectable. Not the best, not the worst. Nurse's Calling. I'd pair this with Monitor and Abuse. Again, you have a 32 meter terror radius, Monitor and Abuse drops it to 24, and Nurse's works once within 28. You could get a jump on those who are healing, likely won't provide the same info as Barbecue or Lethal. Now let's do slowdown perks. These are perks that hinder the survivor's progression and helps try to keep you a step ahead. Pop goes the Weasel, Corrupt Intervention, Hex Ruin plus Undying, Franklin's Demise, Scourge Hook Gift of Pain plus Thanatophobia, and Deadlock. So pop goes the Weasel. Hook a survivor, then you have a minute to kick a gen and drop it 25% instantly. I really started to like using this perk once I put it on Freddy, but in his case he can just teleport to any generator and kick it. Pinhead doesn't exactly have that luxury, so it won't be as good on him, but will still be a good slowdown perk. Corrupt Intervention. This cuts the gen count for the first couple minutes of the match. Gives you time to get into chase with the survivor and may even convince the survivor that grabbing the Lament configuration is a good idea as opposed to searching for a gen on the other side of the map. Hex Ruin. Any gen with progress immediately regresses when not being worked on. When paired with the Lament configuration and the fact that survivors generally need to respect it and cleanse it, Ruin may be his best slowdown perk. I usually pair this with Hex Undying or Hex Haunted Ground so that it has a bit more presence throughout the match. Franklin's Demise, an off-pick perk, but Pinhead has sown new light over it, so it's worth mentioning. The Lament configuration is an item, so when you hit a player holding it, they just drop it. It's good in the sense you can pick up the Lament configuration to use at any point they're on, but once they drop it, the Chain Hunt timer will start fresh. And obviously the person that was holding it won't have Chain Hunt affecting them until you use the box and it spawns again. Pairing it with Hoarder has some interesting synergies. Thanatophobia. Not usually a perk I run on killers, but I got thinking about the implications when pairing it with Scourge Hook Gift of Pain. So Thanatophobia causes a stacking 5% penalty to action speed. That affects all survivors and is based off the number of survivors who are injured in one form or another. So for survivors with a max of 20% penalty, Now, Gift of Pain causes 9% action speed penalty to any survivor who was hooked on any of your Scourge hooks, these special white aura hooks. So the normal problem with Thanatophobia is that if the survivors are healing fast and often, you get little value out of this. When a survivor is unhooked from one of the Scourge hooks, they are hit with Hemorrhage and Mangled. Mangled causes an additional 20% action speed to healing on top of 5% action speed from Thanatophobia. And this is just for one survivor being injured. Imagine multiple survivors. Now let's say they're still managing to heal up from this. Well, Thanatophobia starts falling short, but Gift of Pain kicks in. Now, whoever was hooked has a 9% action speed penalty, plus whatever Thanatophobia might be adding because they've healed to full. So these perks paired together can snowball into the survivors always being affected by action skill penalty. So why is this good for Pinhead? Chain Hunt. The longer it takes survivors to perform actions, the more likely Chain Hunt is to interrupt them. It slows down the game further and buys you more time. Deadlock. This seems to be an anti-gen rush perk. Best to be used in the instance where the survivors all split up in solo gens. When one gen is completed, the next gen with the highest progress will be blocked for 30 seconds and revealed to you. Pair it with Pop Goes the Weasel or Ruin and you'll get a ton of value. The problem I can see with it is not every match you're going to have survivors doing this. It's amazing when it works, but can fall short if the survivors play around it. A lot of people may expect this perk from Pinhead. Running Discordance with it may help create a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Now finally we have Chase Ender perks. These are perks that assist you in downing survivors. Save the Best for Last, Hex Devour Hope, Starstruck, Make Your Choice, Hex Haunted Ground, and Hex Plaything. Save the Best for Last. This has to be my all-time favorite perk to run. It's a bit harsh at tier 1 and 2, but it's fun to play. The idea is to focus on all other survivors besides the Obsession. Every time you land a basic attack on them, get a 5% stacking attack recovery buff, so 40% at 8 stacks, which is max. This is great on a lot of basic attack killers. Pinhead does have one niche condition, and that being if the Obsession is the one who picked up the Lament configuration. You can lose some of your stacks in this scenario, but it's not the end of the world. Still a great perk. Hex Devour Hope. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this perk. I honestly would never want to run it without Undying, as this perk can quickly become a wasted slot providing no value. Get hooks and gain tokens. 2 tokens, you get a haste buff, 3 tokens, and all survivors are exposed, and 5 tokens, you can start moriing everyone. Really good when left unchecked, but feels bad when cleansed before 3 stacks. Starstruck. Pinhead is an M1 killer, so Exposed is your best friend. While carrying a survivor, anyone in your terror radius becomes affected with Exposed and for 30 seconds after dropping the carried survivor or hooking them. This has a 1-minute cooldown. Now, it's pretty easy to kite the killer for 30 seconds, so often it's hard to give value. But if you go against teams that want to harass you when trying to hook, this perk is insane. Just niche, because not every team will do this. Make your choice. A bit hesitant on including this one as the conditions for causing its Expose effect are better suited for a killer like Hag. When a survivor unhooks someone, they become exposed for 1 minute, and this has a 1-minute cooldown. You must be at least 32 meters away when this happens. Not the best perk, but it causes exposed, so it's definitely a viable option. Hex Haunted Ground. I mentioned this earlier. It's an okay perk. Could get a ton of value or could do almost nothing. This totem spawns 2 trap totems on the map that will cause 1 minute of exposed to all survivors, but only works once per match. Pinhead likes Exposed, and I think pairing this with Ruin could be strong. Now his own perk, Hex Plaything. Every time you hook a new survivor, they are affected with Oblivious, which just means they can't hear you coming. One of your Dole totems on the map becomes the Hex totem for this perk, and only the affected survivor can cleanse it for the first 90 seconds. As long as you have Dole totems, you can affect new survivors with Oblivious. The application of this perk is great. It just sucks that it's only causing Oblivious. I don't think you would need to necessarily pair this with other Hex perks. Pairing this with Scourge Hook and Nurse's Calling might be an interesting combo though. Nurse's problem of terror radius is solved if they are under the effects of Oblivious.
Add-ons.
I just want to brush over add-ons quickly. The average player is unable to run the same add-ons every match, so they are inconsistent. But I will cover a few I think you should aim for when spending blood points. I'll organize them by rarity. For brown add-ons, the only real notable one is Burning Candle. This makes it so your chain hunt is on a slightly lower activation time, but from what I'm to understand, it only takes off around 5 seconds. For yellow add-ons, Liquefied Gore makes it so it takes a couple extra seconds for the lament to be solved. This can come in clutch when you're going for the box. Wriggling maggots increases possessed chain turn rate. Makes your power a bit more reliable to land hits if you're bad. Flicker television, same idea as liquefied gore, gives you a bit more distance where you can try and stop the puzzle solve using your power. All the green perks are good. If you see a green perk, pick them up. For the most part, they're just better versions of the perks I've already mentioned. All purple perks are good. Chatterer's Tooth is notable though. It causes a change up in playstyle, since now you know where the box is, but picking it up will end your own chain hunt. You would want to play around this by zoning the area it is in to try and keep chain hunt rolling, and only picking it up as a last resort. Remember, if you get it, it respawns in 5 seconds. But if survivors solve it, it takes 45 seconds for a respawn. Again, this is a change up in playstyle, may not necessarily be better overall. Both iridescent add-ons are good in their own right. Iridescent Lament configuration helps conceal the box to survivors until chain hunt. It helps produce more chain hunts through the match, as it makes it harder for survivors to find it. Engineer Fang is a good one too. It has really good synergy with Save the Best for Last, because you can use it to knock out a health state. Be aware that when dealing damage with it, it doesn't chain them. Well, that's basically it. I'm still fairly new at making these types of guides, so if you think I'm missing anything very important or disagree with anything that I've mentioned, just let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested in learning new things and seeing through the perspective of others. If you like this guide, hit the like and subscribe button, as it will greatly help me progress as a content creator. As I'm sure you can tell by the small number of subscribers I currently have, I'm just starting out. So yeah, I also stream every Monday and Wednesday, so you can catch me there. And I try to have at least one video uploaded per week. Yes, the content is slower than I would like, but that's why I need your help. So again, thank you for watching my guide. I hope you stay safe out there.